start the roll call, I want to welcome Mr. John McCary to the board. He was recently appointed. Welcome. Happy to have you join us. I'm going to get the right agenda so I can do the right thing here. Thank you. Okay, so roll call. Mr. Dan is absent. Mr. DeSalvo is absent. Mr. Brescia?
Here.
Mr. Gatos?
Here.
Mr. Scrabbice?
Here.
Mr. McCary?
Here.
Bolson's here. Lori, Vinnie, Melanie, Kevin, Russ, and Joel Klein are here. Okay, so the first up is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of January 9th, starting with the board meeting. So everybody got the minutes in their packet, and I didn't find the names, so. Everybody have any questions? Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any
I
opposed?
want to abstain
Okay.
because it's not you.
Okay, thank you, John, for doing that. Okay, so that's enough to say, if they're approved. Then, next up is the governance committee meeting, which, who is the chair of the governance committee? Mr. Diane is not here, so.
We have,
Mike, you wanna talk about the meeting, or,
Scrubbies was at that meeting.
oh, Bob? You have anything to say about the meeting, the last month's?
Not
governance meeting?
really,
So good to go? No, the
The
minutes.
No, the minutes for last month.
of last month's?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, okay, so Steve made a motion to the minutes. Mike, you second, thank you. Any questions or comments? And hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, carried. And then for the audit committee of January 9th, the chairman of that is also not here.
Right. I think it was Steinberg, Beatos, and Diana were in there.
Okay. So,
Yeah, the basis is ratified, right? We.
Oh, no, this is from last month.
No.
Oh,
Yeah, so,
okay.
the minutes of the
Okay.
third.
yeah. All right, so the minutes seem to be fine. Anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept them. Thank you. Second, thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Next up is request for payments, or financial reports and/or request for payments.
If you refer to the packet, monthly financial packet in front of you on page 1, we have for the Orange County IDA, as of January 31st, 2020, the balance of bank accounts, certificate deposits, and money market accounts. As of January 31st, is a total balance of $8,456,086. Page 2 is the income and expense summary as of January 31st. We have year-to-date total income of $48,071 and total expenses of $31,178. Again, these numbers could change once the audit is complete and the audit adjustments have been recorded into the financial records. Page 3, we have the income and expense summary as of January 31st for the accelerator. Total income, $5,923, total expenses, $91,817. Again, same goes for the accelerator, whereby these figures can change based upon year-end adjustments. Page 4, our funds received and vouchers, payments to be approved. Just to make you aware, this is a revised voucher listing from what was in the packet. We added the 5 vouchers on the bottom under the Warwick Valley LDC shovel ready program, the lab building project invoices, and we added those 5 invoices since you received the packet. So we've received $5,575 in income, and we have vouchers to be approved of $214,483.98.
Okay, anybody have any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the financial report and voucher request for payments.
So moved.
Thank you. Mike second, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Chairman's report, as usual, I have nothing to report. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I do have something to report. Because we've had a change in one of our board members with Mr. Steinberg no longer with us and Mr. McCary joining us, I want to make some recommendations to modify the committee selections a little bit. So for governance, I'd like Mike Gatos to be the alternate instead of Mr. Steinberg. And for audit, Mr. Scrabbice instead of Mr. Steinberg. And John, will have you go into the Accelerator Committee, which John was a member. And then, Finance and, Microloan Committee, Bob, would like you to be the alternate. A Microloan Committee is an official committee, but we haven't really met yet. We haven't been able to get that off the ground, but, so everybody good with that? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so then we go to the Chief Executive Officer's report.
Okay, so tis the season for auditing, so the Paris reporting is underway. JGS is working on the 2019 audit, and Kathy Hunter is working with our projects to get our confirms. So far, we're getting a lot in. The deadline's tomorrow, but I'm sure that we're going to be making a round of second requests for anybody who hasn't responded. Every year, our responses get better, so I'm anticipating full cooperation this year. Excuse me, all of the current OCIDA policies, that's whistleblower policies, labor policy, just every single policy that we have is being reviewed by staff and management, and we will be bringing to the governance committee in a few months a full review of all of our policies, including some that are not in existence that maybe should be, some revisions to older policies, to do an updated, revise and review of all of those policies, so that's forthcoming. Excuse me. There are a few closings that are underway. There's the GAM property group, which is out in Goshen, had been approved a number of months ago. That will be closing in the coming few months. We also have a few approvals for 2 hotels that are in New Windsor here that were approved about a year ago now. So just as a refresher for the board members, we have a clause in our resolutions that if there's no either final approval or activity on those projects within a year, we reach out to that project for an update or review, and then the board will review whether or not they'd like to extend that approval, based on the information that we get back. So next month, you'll hear from both of those projects. The New York State Economic Development Council was held an annual, one of their meetings on January 29th in Albany. Melanie, Kevin, Vinny, and I all attended. I was on a panel for IDAs. The Office of the State Comptroller was there as well, talking about the compliance process, the Paris system, and we're recommending to the state EDC that we have a larger in-depth meeting with the Office of the State Comptroller to really talk more about some of the challenges with Paris and some of the oversights. It's very difficult to get the kind of information that they want in the context that they want, just because it's an outdated metric and an outdated system. So we'll be working closely with them on that. In addition, the New York State Economic Development Council holds what we call an IDA Academy. Their inaugural one was in Batavia. All of us went, Kathy, Kelly, Marty, Melanie was on maternity leave at the time, but Vinny, Kevin, and I all attended. They're gonna hold another one in the Hudson Valley, preferably in Orange County, but what's gonna be nice about this one is they will hold a board member training session with members of the ABO and the Office of the State Comptroller. So that date has yet to be determined, the date and location, but when they do, we'll reach out to the board members, because that will satisfy your annual PAAA compliance training. Many of you have taken it certainly in year 2019 online. John, I know you're gonna take the one online, but this will be a good supplemental one. It's definitely more sort of roll up your sleeves and in-depth training than the one that is available online, so it'll be really nice discourse. They've had it before upstate, and it was very successful. Excuse me. The Office of Economic Development held an FTZ presentation. Oh, the Office of the Economic Development held a FTZ presentation on January 30th. Melanie and Sarah both attended. They went over the FTZ, kind of what it means, why it works, how it works. As you know, the IDA contributes $25,000 a year to the maintenance and administration of that program. They did mention that during the program, but we will also be talking more with Bill Fioravanti about the FTZ and how we can work more closely with the FTZ itself. And I think that that's all I have.
Okay.
Any questions?
Thank you. Okay, so then we have the board committee reports, so we'll start with the audit committee.
You want, go
You
and
can
speak
go,
to it?
yes,
Okay,
please.
so 2 items of note. First was that the audit committee recommended for approval an extension to the low-key Braille contract. If you all recall, we have our project out in Warwick, which is our urban extraction facility for the Warwick Valley Hemp Park. That construction has been a bit delayed, not through any fault of anybody's, it's just that they've made the factory better. So what we have is engaged Loki Brill to review the construction, to review the labor on site, to also make sure that all of the expenses that we're laying out, which as a reminder will all be reimbursed by New York State, but to ensure that all of the expenses are indeed for that project and that they are reasonable. So we have a contract with them for roughly $4,200 a month that was to expire this month. We want to extend it out because in addition to the delay in the project, we've also, as you'll recall, authorized a second $500,000 expense for the lab portion of the building. So extending the Loki Brill contract will allow them to continue to review those expenses and that the construction schedule throughout the completion of that project, which is slated for the end of April. So the audit committee recommended it for approval. I guess we would seek a motion from the full board to indeed execute that.
Anybody have any questions?
I'll make the motion, but let somebody second on the question.
I'll second.
Okay, that's all reimbursable by New York State.
Correct.
And so when we see them on the expense report each month, they're paid by the applicants in other scenarios.
In some scenarios. So if you'll recall, and Joel can speak to this a little bit more clearly, but we have some projects that were still grandfathered in where we were paying for it 100%. Newer projects it's all a pass-through, so they pay us an escrow fee, we pay Loki Brill, and then whatever's the balance,
Is it refunded?
the project gets back, correct. And then this one we are paying for because it's our money, even if we're gonna get the $2 million back from the state, but because we are laying it out and because it's our project, in essence, it's an accelerator, we have an interest in the project, we are paying the monitoring on that one.
All right, 'cause I didn't ask any questions on the expense report, but I mean, hope that's not gonna be a scenario every month, 5,000 in, 214,000 hour.
No.
This,
No.
Yeah, because we're gonna be at that, I mean,
Right.
the general fund, I mean, the 8.4, that's the lowest I've seen on
In a long
a long time.
Yeah.
Well, Joel, in.
Years, probably.
Yeah, but in the audit committee, I mean, he spoke to Mike Sweeten and, the EDC grant, obviously has been confirmed, but they said that they expect those funds to be released first quarter 21. So we'll get the full $2 million.
Yeah.
We'll get the cash back at that time.
Mhm.
Good.
And except for the lab, there's only like $300,000 left that needs to be done on the lab, plus or minus. So our outlay for them will be finished.
Joel's actually gonna show more of this later.
And then the other thing that happened in the, we need a full eye on that one, so I know we got motion in a second, did everyone have to? All in?
Okay.
Okay. And the next thing was that Joel went over the investment report as per the bylaws and debriefed the audit committee on the investment report.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Okay, thank you. So then we have the governance committee report.
Governance committee was very simple. Kevin gave a review to the governance committee about the procurement transactions, which no law has changed in the last year, so it stays in full force and effect and intact.
It's just for information over here. Okay, and then the accelerator committee, we're gonna do the full-blown thing with Mr. Vinnie.
Ready? Okay, you all should have in front of you this package. And for the audience, I just tried to generalize so you don't have to see the package, but you guys would follow along. So usually we give a pretty brief accelerator report, but this is the end of year 2019 report. And with John coming on board, it was a good time to put this all together. So as you all know, the accelerator project is funded by the IDA. It was a program you guys developed years and years ago to help spend down in a way we could that fund balance that we have, right? And so that's what we've been doing, and this is to the advantage of bringing new industries to Orange County. So on the next page, the one that looks like this, maybe somebody can help me.
I'll do it, I got it.
So this is kind of our scorecard. So we've had about 145 jobs formed in the various 3 accelerators, 3 clusters. Each cluster is designed to bring a new industry to Orange County. So the 3 clusters are fashion manufacturing, personal care products and medical devices, and CBD hemp so far. There are others we'll talk about later, but those are the 3 that are in here. There are 29 small companies in those clusters right now. 38% of them are women-owned businesses. This is important to us because you'll see later we apply for a lot of state and federal grants, and it helps us get the money. And we invested a few $1 million in this. When you do the division, all that stuff, it's about $14,000 a job that's created, which is not very bad in the economic development, quite frankly. It's actually pretty good. Next page. So these are the 2019 key accomplishments. And this is, so I'll also make comments about how we can improve as we go on for this. So we hosted 4 sewing training classes. So our fashion cluster is the one that's growing the fastest. And we just can't get enough of production sewers and people in the fashion industries. We have to create them. Those are skills that they just don't show up anymore. It's not your grandmother taught you how to sew and now you're in the sewing business. It's not like that. We don't have, the schools around here, some of the high schools and BOCES do teach some sewing courses, but the population, largely in Newburgh, that we're attracting to these jobs just do not have the training. So as you know, we've tried to partner with BOCES and with SUNY Ulster. Maybe we can go, SUNY Orange, sorry. Maybe we can go back again and keep trying, but we've had to run these programs ourselves. So we end up putting between 6 and 8 people in each sewing program. It runs, 4 weeks, 5 weeks? 4 or 5 weeks, and the people are, if they pass the sewing program, and if they're a legal resident, then they can have a job in one of the sewing companies that we have, because every one of them is looking for people. Some of the issues we've had is that we start people in the program, in New York State, we're not allowed to check their legality to work status, cannot. So if anybody applies to go on a program, we basically have to let them in. In some of our classes, we've let like 8 people in and only 2 came out the other side that could work. So there's nothing we can do about that. We can be more clear about it as we go in, but that's the only way we can handle it. We catch them on the way out because the companies then have to file an E9 or I-9, that kind of thing, and then that's where they have to prove that they're legal. We've worked with New York State on this. We're working with Scoopus' office to see if there's other ways we could do this, but we're just trying to do better communication to see if we can stave that off. But we have a program going on right now in sewing. We have another one starting next month, and the companies they're starved for growth because we just can't get them enough employees. And it's not that they're not available. It's just that the word isn't really out on the street yet, and these companies are very nice to work for. So anyway, this last class we staffed with 8 people. We have another one coming after that. We'll keep going on that. In 2019, we received, at the beginning of 2019, at the end, about $1.2 million of outside money that came into the IDA. $500,000 was on the way out for Larkin, and $500,000 was from Scoopus. So we got 2 Senate grants to help us do through our partner TSAC, to help us buy equipment for these accelerators, and then $200,000 from the Workforce Development Institute, which is another funded institution by, in fact, you guys are very much connected to them, right? The unions kind of organize that, yeah. We developed some private sector funding sources this year. We're pretty excited about that. So this is the first time 2 of our accelerator companies have received financing outside of bank financing for private investors. We just closed $250,000 for one of the companies, and another one's about to close tomorrow. So we finally have investors paying attention to it. One of them is one of the groups that we've been working with is the group that owns Cablevision, Madison Square Garden, et cetera. Another group is a group of investors that come from India and make a lot of investments in America. So that's good, and we're going to keep growing that. We need those funding sources. Very hard for small businesses, for any of you who run a small business, and many of you have, to get capital, as you know, so we need these sources of funds. CACHA, which is the lab, the CBD lab on the Warwick site, is now completely qualified. They've passed the New York State Department of Health site inspection, so now they can test any CBD or marijuana product. You have to remember, our CBD accelerator, by our definition, also includes 3 marijuana facilities: Pharmacanis, Valley Agroceuticals, and Sativa. And so we merge those things together. So this lab will service also the marijuana facilities. As you know, for both CBD and marijuana, regulations are, of course, important for us to stay ahead of. And New York State is still developing testing methodologies for those things. This lab will be ready to do it no matter what it is. We have created an association with a sister accelerator in Japan. Why not? And we're already seeing some benefit of that. Like our small companies who are involved in this are on the Japanese website. It's kind of nice to see, and we reference each other. And at the end of 2019, we had just launched the CBD cluster and started the artificial intelligence cluster, which we'll talk more about in a second. The artificial intelligence cluster, as you know, is in Highland Falls. I forgot to mention that John McCary's appointment to the Accelerator Committee means he goes to Japan to visit that new accelerator.
Congratulations.
Whether he
Which
wants
is
to
on
or
the-
not.
You're right, screw it up, which is the next page. So I'm not gonna go into too much detail, but you'll see it's in the Tokushima Prefecture. And that's our partnering accelerator. More importantly, our companies, Asterism, Drone Tech, Goats in a Coat, and Farm Body are all associated with that Japanese. We're hoping to get them more business there. So, and in return, we'll collect some of those Japanese companies as they grow, and in the US location, hopefully will be that landing point. So this is kind of our philosophy. Remember, the accelerator clusters we go after are new and emerging clusters that we hope are gonna last 10, 15 years out. They're not what we typically have in Orange County or even in New York, right? So we have advanced fashion manufacturing, we have medical devices and personal care products, and we have CBD right now, more to come. Next page. So I'm now gonna talk more specifically on the progress of the accelerators. Next page. So again, the way we've clustered these is based on where the skills lie that we're gonna become the employees for these businesses. So we rehabilitated a number of buildings. We did this as a team in both Newburgh, City of Newburgh, 603 Broadway, 605 Broadway, and down the hill here in New Windsor, these old barracks or whatever they were. And that's our fashion manufacturing cluster. So in there, we have everybody, we have companies making everything from handbags to athletic wear, okay? And those are the companies that are hiring the fastest, by the way. And all of them are because we have made in America products and higher value products. None of them are sweatshops. You go into these facilities, and any of you are welcome to come on tour, but if you go into these facilities, there's music playing and people are happy and all that kind of stuff, which is good. That's what we wanted. Okay, I'll go through more of that later. Middletown, we took over the old Horton Hospital, third floor, and there we have, we call all of these production on demand systems. Another way to think about them is micro factories. And we have a bunch in there, and that's our personal care and medical devices and some CBD production everywhere now. And then at the end of 2019, the Warwick CBD Park started to be built, where we're building the test lab and the production facility for processing, and another facility for end product manufacturing. I'll get into more detail later. And in Highland Falls, right down the block from West Point, is our artificial intelligence startup accelerator, which we're most excited about, and I think will be our masterpiece as we go on. And then we have our program called Accelerator Without Walls. And to remind you what that is for if you're a manufacturing company in Orange County, for free, you get access to our technicians, our engineers, our scientists, our business people, and we'll help you grow your business. Okay, next page. So the services we offer these people is in our buildings, it's reduced rent, it's very low rent. We're not in this to make money. We take no building off the tax rolls. So the municipality we operate in gets the benefit of having these buildings on tax rolls. In fact, we take buildings that were no longer usable, we make them usable, and then we put people to work in them. And then the idea is, over time, these companies get healthy on their own, and they grow out, and they go into the community, somebody else, we love them to death, and somebody catches them, the Orange County Partnership, local real estate agents, whatever, and they move into those other buildings. We help them with business development, marketing, and again, for those of you who have small businesses, and many of you have, you understand that, you know, you can lose one customer as a small business and your business can turn upside down, right? And we get those calls, we get these calls, you know. I've been doing business for 30 years, my grandfather started a business, I just lost my top 2 customers, what do I do? And that's where Accelerator Without Walls sort of comes in to help out. We help them with marketing, any facilities management, operations and engineering support, training obviously. One of our more famous training programs also is this new program we piloted called Factory English. And again, this is mostly in the fashion business, although it's hitting food also now, the food companies we have around here, which is the majority of the people working there. It's not that English is their second language, but literally they speak very little English. They just don't have to. They live in communities where you can speak Spanish as your language all the time. And that's okay, but then it forced our factory owners to learn Spanish. Over time, it's good for our opinion and their opinion, including the employees. Over time, it's good for them to learn English. So they have actually been coming to us and said, you know, we'd like to do this. So we piloted a project, we call it Factory English. You don't learn how to write, you learn how to speak English and how to understand English. And that's all done, you know, with iPads and iPhones and all this kind of stuff. We're paying for the pilot program, and if that runs, well, and we complete it, which should be completed in another 2 months for our first group of 10. Then we're gonna go to like the Workforce Development Institute and say, help us and let's pay for the rest of the programs. But again, these are all opportunities also for any of our educational partners who may want to take this over from us, because we would love nothing more than to give all the training stuff to somebody else. But for now, we have to do it. And then access to capital. So, you know, us finding people who are interested, like the Cablevision folks or other people, to come to our, you know, startup companies and at least consider what they're doing, is that we have to constantly push that out. We don't have a good angel investment model here in the Hudson Valley. We just don't have it. If you go to Albany, they have a great angel investment group. If you go to New York City, there's 1 million of them, but they tend to not leave their area. Angels tend to help the people in their area. We just don't have that. So we have to start to develop our own. So that's why we brought this Indian group in and why we brought the Cablevision folks in. Next page, companies served. So we have 29 companies in the accelerator. They range from 2 people to about 14. So that's about the size of the companies we have now. Lori is famous for saying, you know, if we can get, you know, 500 companies at 5 employees apiece, that's as good as one company at 2,500, and we have more diversity and all that kind of stuff. So that's what we're aiming for here. So they range from small, locally owned craft manufacturing, just-in-time, high-end production, agribusiness, entrepreneurs of all types. We also connect the companies together wherever possible and to other companies. So again, if you're a small business, your brand is not well known, your talent is not well known, we've got to advocate for them, and so we do that. We make phone calls, we connect them between each other. If we have a company that in the cluster that's successful, we try to get them to help other companies in the cluster that could be a supplier to them. An example of that is Zeal, our manufacturing company, has been overperforming with the exception of hiring, and that's only because we can't get them employees fast enough. But they needed, they were having their material, they make athletic wear, women's athletic wear, which is that stretchy stuff, you know, tight stretchy stuff. It's hard to sew, it's a real talent to learn, but they've had the material cut in down south and shipped up here. Now we cut it right here down the street. A company called Mello, another one of our companies, actually does that work for them. So we're outsourcing between ourselves, and we want to do more of that in the cluster. Helps everybody. Another example of that is Exosoothe, which is on our personal care products cluster, is sourcing CBD from Urban Extracts, our CBD manufacturer. So you see, we're trying within the cluster to create an economy itself also as we go through. And then we've had offshoot help. So these companies need lawyers, they need banks, they need all that kind of stuff, and we're trying to, so Walker Valley Federal Savings and Loan has stepped up to the plate, Ulster Savings Bank has stepped up to the plate. Not every bank wants to work with startups. Some do. Those who do, we make those engagements. This says Bloom and Bloom, but it's really Bloomer and Johnson, which is a law firm around here, and they offer to these entrepreneurs basically, you know, free advice for the first times, and then, you know, make $50 an hour instead of $100 an hour of it going forward. But the hope that someday they grow big enough and then they need a law firm. We offer that to anybody. We talk to Jacobowitz, Gubitz, all these. We talk to all of them. Say, if you want to get in on this, come on, get in on this. We've also had big accounting firms come to us, offer their services to try to help this grow out. Okay, next page. So the fashion cluster is our biggest thus far. It's in Newburgh and New Windsor. And so we're going to continue with training. That's our #1 problem there, is to get employees to be trained to sew. And so also in this economy, you know, where people have options, right? So if you want a career, you want to get a skill. But if you want a job, you can get one. So people have to make those trade-off decisions. So we do everything to try to recruit people. We go into the bars, to the laundromats, everywhere. We try to tell people you can get a better job here. Most of it used to be all, but I would say right now, with the exception of one, our companies pay $15 an hour. Zeal, who's our star right now in the sewing business, also offers medical benefits already, and they've only been here a year. So that was going very, very well. So next page. I'll go through this very quickly, but this is our year-end review, so you gotta give me a little time here. So we have the Elizabeth collection. So these are the companies in the fashion cluster, okay? So they're in micro factories. Some are smaller than this room, some are bigger than this room. The Elizabeth collection makes leather products. It's a veteran-owned business. There's 2 people there. Green Panda makes environmentally friendly toothbrushes, by the way. Inform Lightworks makes a LED lighting product. These are all in Newburgh. Limberti is very exciting. That's going to be our next star. They've been slow, but Limberti is internationally known as a very high-end handbag manufacturer. big names. And we visited their factory, they've been there for a long time, I think 60 years. People here, when the handbag design business have actually contacted us and said, oh my gosh, you guys have Lombardi coming here? There's a lot of buzz around this, we have a sample room for them. So the plan is, Italy's very well known for leather goods and, you know, very high quality sewing, et cetera. So what they're gonna do here is they'll continue to make that leather product in Italy, ship it here, and then make the sample handbags here. Then they run them down to the city where the designers live. The designers look at it and say, I don't like that color metal on this thing or whatever. I don't like that latch, let's change the latch, so we'll do all that here. And then over time, Lombardi wants to start to do some production here. In Europe, over time could mean 100 years, okay? So we have to be a little patient. We're not gonna wait that long, but we're gonna start to get these companies that are gonna start to grow. The other exciting thing about Lombardi is they're introducing us to so many other European companies that wanna make that entrance into the US, which is always hard for them. Number one, nobody can help them. Number two, they're all family-owned businesses, so it's scary for them, right? And number three, if you're in Europe, pretty much everything's for free. You want an employee, they get trained by somebody else. You don't have to pay for their training, you know? You need equipment, the government will either fund it or they'll give you money towards it or whatever. And so it's very different for them when they come to the US. So they have to get used to that idea. But they'll bring us other people as we go forward. M&M Specialty Enterprises makes fashion lighting. Next page, Mello makes specialty backpack bags. Their biggest market is the military market, so soldiers who carry oxygen tanks with them, that's in bags made right here. It's a big Department of Defense contract. Those bags are specially sewed. The owner of the company is a mechanical engineer. These things have to withstand incredible conditions. So it's not just sew it, it's sew it with very different approaches to doing that. Nice Blue makes high-end manufacturing, high-end handbags. We have a footwear manufacturer, silk screen company, a ladies' dress company, Zeal, which I said was the athletic wear, and FPS Apparel, and I know you know them, Bob. They were in Florida, New York. They now moved to Chester in expansion. But as you know, when we met them, Bob, they were, you know, flat on their back, right? So this was, we entered them into the accelerator, though physically they don't use our space because they needed that kind of help. Pleased to say, they've completely recovered, they're growing, and they're another one that needs employees right away, so. Okay, next page, we'll talk about the personal care medical device cluster. So that's it, the old Horton Hospital, where we took the third floor, we took the operating rooms, the examination rooms, et cetera, nursing stations, and we turned those into microfactories. Okay, so that's, and there we built, and we'll see the drawing, John has it now, we're building a clean room there, so we'll be able to process food grade or pharmaceutical grade products right there, which is a game changer for us. So next page, that is the layout of the clean room that we invested in. WDI also invested in this, I think, I forget how much, 50,000 or so. Yeah. And so anyway, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but you guys can all come and see it. I know Steve's been in Middletown several times. But basically, a clean room is where you could meet FDA grade standards or food grade standards for producing product. So it has to have certain particle count, not, you know, mold and things like that, and we'll have that ability. Next page, the companies that are at the personal care medical device building, Adabots, which is a mobile 3D robot, Alternate eSource, which is cyber security related devices, Asterism, which uses, actually is a Japanese company coming to America, it's our first one, and they use Japanese herbs and spices, and they create, you know, in Japan and China, they have tens of thousands of years of history of using herbs and spices to treat certain medical conditions. So these guys put them together into pills and lotions and things like that, which we're making here. Series Technologies does equipment, industrial equipment design for medical devices. And next page, we have a drone company, Exosuit, which makes an eczema treatment cream, Farm Body, and Goats in a Coat are our two biggest companies there. Each of them has, one has 4 employees, one has 6, and they make soaps, creams, and lotions bath products, beauty products, things like that. They're really, really doing well. Those two companies have both had a banner year last year.
Those are the companies in the Times Row record. too.
Correct.
Yeah,
Thank
those
you.
are
Did
COVID
Dan do
people
that
too.
anymore, or no? Dan do that?
I think
Dan
he did, yeah.
did several of those, yep. And we also, but good lead in, we've also had people in.
People Magazine.
People Magazine, we've had them in.
Women's Wear Daily.
Women's Wear Daily, we've been on television, we've, okay. And Bird's Creation is a new company coming in, they're vegan, plant-based candles and personal care products. So for those of us who don't buy that kind of stuff, there is a huge market out there. Next page. And by the way, some of our other companies have been very kind to these companies, so like the cidery,
Yes, Angry Orchard.
Angry Orchard, for example, carries some of these products on their shelves. Adams carries these products. So the locals have all been very helpful to us.
Warwick Winery, West Point, a lot of our personal care products have a lot of contracts with some local suppliers.
I'm gonna go down to the third cluster, which is the CBD cluster. So that's a new cluster. In the history of that, as most of you know, is that that was the Warwick Prison Park, and then the town of Warwick took ownership from the state of New York, and they also received a $5 million grant to help develop it. Everybody in this room knows that $5 million is not a lot of money when you have to develop something like that. But what we did there was we decided that that cluster would be CBD marijuana-related products, or be the core of that. So every time we say we have a cluster that we locate in one place, we also reach out tentacles. They don't all have to physically be in that spot, but that's sort of the energy behind it. So in that particular place, and I know, Bob, you've been there many times, we took the barn, the barn and the piggery. Dairy barn, the piggery. And the barn we're turning into a CBD processing facility. So that's where farmers will bring hemp. The hemp gets squeezed and processed into CBD oil. And then CBD oil gets put into products, right? Because the oil is interesting, but not as interesting as having a drink or a cream or lotion or a pill or a tablet. So on that facility, we have the CBD processor, and that's called Urban Extracts. We have Fusion CBD, which is purchased a lot, and they're gonna make end products only. So they're not gonna make the oil there, they're gonna use the oil to make products that go to the market, and we have our test lab, okay? That's physically at the Warwick facility. Then, if you go to the next page, in New Windsor, we have here it says God's Flower, we have like 3 names, but this is the old
That's the old
Continental Organics building, and they're actually growing hemp, processing it, and making end products, and they're trying to be a tourist destination, as is Urban Extracts. So if you saw the building for Urban, and I remember Bob telling me, it'll never look this good, right? Remember, it looks pretty good, doesn't it? So we're really making it pretty, quite frankly. So people who want to do CBD will actually even be able to, have CBD in the building, come see where it's made, all that kind of stuff. And there'll be an offshoot of this. So, at the Warwick Park, we have that other project going on with the guys building the brewery and all that, selling pizza. We'll bring traffic there. It's good for everybody. There'll be employees there. It's good for everybody.
Bob deserves a lot of praise for that. too,
He does.
because, I mean, he started the ball rolling, and you guys became the
Yep.
catalysts after that. and
Yep.
He made the connections, and
He did.
and you guys ran with the ball.
He
so,
brought us the farmers.
You guys deserve, you and Lori deserve praise for
Oh,
that, too.
thank you.
And you did a lot with,
Yep.
and yeah, he brought you the farmers, too.
He did. That was important.
Egley and
Yeah.
Caballero.
Yeah.
And then the Rogowski.
Yeah, Bragowski and all that. And then on that same Warwick facility, I don't think you visited this yet, yeah, I'm sure you will though, the Manor House, which I think was where the warden lived, that will become our traditional accelerator. So there, we'll have 6 of these production on-demand systems or microfactories, and we'll put startups in there that are in the CBD or marijuana-related business. So remember, right now, CBD is legal. Soon, adult-use marijuana will be legal, and people will be able to take THC and CBD and make other products with it, just like in California and other places. We'll be ready to handle that. That's our next phase of this project.
We should go there next week.
Where the, later in the week.
Later, okay.
Yeah.
You wanna go?
Sure.
We'll call you.
Yeah, I was just saying to them, I haven't been there yet, so I have to go.
And so John's going away for 2 weeks, but when he comes back, just so you know, we're taking him on all these, so.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. The next page is this I think will be our masterpiece, I'll keep saying this. This is really so exciting. So the artificial intelligence cluster What we set out to do on this one, so every accelerator we set out to solve a problem, right? So the fashion one was how do we deploy these mothballed factories in Newburgh and New Windsor and put them back in operation, given we had a labor force that we knew was first generation Americans. And first, just like the Italians when you came, you gotta have a factory job. We wanted to create factories. In Warwick, it was how to use a prison ground that is very difficult to get to. Why would you, anybody, so you put something with CBD marijuana, it's a good place to put it. People don't care, it's out of the way, right? In Horton Hospital, we're right by a medical college, so we leverage that. For the AI cluster, we had been approached by Joe D'Onofrio to do something for Highland Falls, which if you go to Highland Falls, West Point is the jewel of Highland Falls, right? So the main street, the downtown, it's there, but it's not vibrant. And then after 9/11, the cadets they don't really have to go off the campus. So if you go on West Point's campus now, you can go to a Starbucks, a Burger King, a McDonald's, you get your laundry done, there's restaurants. So they don't have to go to downtown. So the whole idea was, how could we leverage West Point and do something to get the downtown to grow again and be vital? And to start this project, if you remember, you guys funded a study, which we did with Pattern for Progress, to say, what could we do about this? We did get a report for Pattern for Progress, and basically their analysis was to have better networking between the townspeople in West Point. That's all good. But, we wanted to go something deeper. So we decided to go approach West Point, and other people had done this before. But we said, let's go to West Point with an idea. And our idea was, given that we knew artificial intelligence is new technology, artificial intelligence isn't just collecting data and using it. Artificial intelligence is what you do with the information. So I think Mike has his Ring doorbell, for example, at home, right? So he was just complaining about somebody walks past the thing and he gets an alert. So does the police department, the FBI, and 40 other places, I'm sure. So that information is now available. What do you do with it, right? So imagine if you got this warning and you didn't like what you saw and you could hit a button, something else could happen. It's all part of the artificial intelligence. It's taking action on the information. So we decided to take, in the downtown, just so happens, Key Bank. The Key Bank building is empty. We're trying to rent that right now. In order for us to rent that, our motto always is we don't own anything. We look for a friendly landlord. We get a good deal. We go into the premises. So that's the place we want to go into. There is a buyer who's working on this for us right now, and soon we hope to get that. In the meantime, we've had, 8 meetings with the management of West Point. And at a later date, we'll go through this in more detail and maybe bring the commandant, or whatever they call him, and the rest of the people in here to talk about this. Joe D'Onofrio is very excited, so are they. We've gone to so many meetings there where there are 50, 60 people in the room. This is the most exciting thing West Point has ever seen in terms of their ability to do something with Highland Falls. Now, why? Because they are an engineering school, okay? So they have big AI, artificial intelligence contracts. The military is the biggest user of artificial intelligence, as you can imagine. But their customers are like Raytheon and places like that, which are not around here. So their students, to get hands-on training, get in a car and they go to Pennsylvania, or they go to New Jersey, or they go somewhere else. Once we have companies right down the hill, they'll be able to come right down the hill. The other thing about West Point that's so exciting is faculty, they're all PhDs, right? So we have access to that expertise, but also the faculty spouses. Many of them have advanced degrees and have nothing to do. And so if we could deploy them on this much more advanced, so this is our most advanced accelerator. This is where you really have to have, higher level degrees in specialized fields. They may have a place where they could work, or intern, et cetera. So now we have a workforce that we could probably apply to this. Once we get them off the campus and downtown, the theory is will flourish. This is what they tell us in economic development training, right? So more pizza stores will come, restaurants will open, other things will happen. And as the companies grow, again, if we love them to death, and this is where Joe D'Onofrio comes in and his team, we'll keep them there, right? So they grow out of the accelerator space, they have to go in other space, you want to keep them in Highland Falls, that's their job to make them comfortable. And so let's go to the next page, so.
You should use John a little bit too, that was just working with the county. real estate and.
Yeah, sure,
private property and
absolutely.
everything, so.
So on the accelerator
Pick his
committee.
brain.
It is.
Yeah, we did put them on the accelerator.
Yeah.
That reason.
So we're still branding this right now, so, you know, the Thayer, Hotel Thayer is at the gate of West Point. AI is our name, so you'll see accelerator, AI, Thayer gate, et cetera, as we go through this. We're gonna figure this out, but let's go on. So, let's go to, okay, so I just wanna go to the, I'm gonna skip a few pages so we can go a little faster, okay? All right. If you can go to this page that says West Point Robotics Collaboration,
Who's in what number?
page 26.
Yeah,
So the first thing,
Top left.
the first collaborative project we have with West Point Military Academy and us is that West Point has decided to participate in a autonomous vehicle contest where engineering schools across the country are designing autonomous vehicles to do a race at where the Indianapolis 500 racetrack is. So no driver will put the car there, so you gotta use your engineering smarts to make that car work. That's all about artificial intelligence, our flagship first project. So you'll see our decals on the car. On the car, it'll be the accelerator, it'll be the IDA, and we're providing them with connections into the private sector. That's what our role in this is. That's gonna be announced next Friday. You may have announced it just now, but that will be.
Yeah, I think you did.
Let's go next. So each of these other brown sheets, I won't go through them in detail, but this is something that you can read. If you want to know what is an AI company like, these are the companies that we're vetting out right now. The thing that's interesting is you can see there's like 6 or 8 of them. We don't have our building yet, right? We didn't do any big marketing plan yet. We haven't really gotten out there yet, but this is just the buzz that's largely happened by West Point contacting their retired graduates and their alum who have reaching out to us, including investment groups of West Point graduates who say, once you get that virtual reality company, their AI company, that we are in that space, we'd like to see how we can participate in it. We're very excited about this. The thing that can limit us here is not having the real estate beyond this key bank. So, for example, we are after some of the bigger, well-known defense contractors because there is a benefit to them doing some AI research close to West Point so those cadets could see their stuff, right? All that. So we hit 1 or 2 of those and then they want to be here, we need a place to put them. So that's the trickiness of this whole thing as we go on. That's why we have an accelerator board to help us with this. I want to point out this one chart that says WHIN Advisory Business Services.
Page 34, those not numbered.
Yeah, is this one?
Like this.
Looks like this. Yeah, where's Sarah? What does WH stand for again?
West Harlem
Thank you, yes.
Innovation.
West Harlem Innovation Network. So the federal government has funded 2 opportunity zones. The one that's closest to us is in West Harlem. And they have to do most of their work there. However, they get to do 10% and spend 10% of their federal grant money within the region, which we fit. They like this project, they've agreed to participate with us. So it solves their problem because they only do 90% there, they have to do 10% somewhere else, but they got very excited about this. They bring services we don't have. So for example, financial services, human resources for the companies, et cetera, we don't do that, they do that. Great.
Fantastic.
Yep. Okay, and I may just leave it there. Okay, last thing I want to talk about is this chart. Do you imagine this chart? And then I promise I'll stop. So it's this one. Okay.
Page 3 now.
I'm just waiting for Steve. The one before that, Steve. So imagine this in the upper right. Okay, so this is an artist's rendition of what the accelerator could look like there, okay? And each of the boxes talks about, this says covers 67,000 square feet of building. Actually, the building we're looking at is 16,000 square feet. I'm not gonna talk about with the Delta. There is other space in Highland Falls that we hope to use for the expansion out. So this actually should have just said 16,000, we'll fix that. And so think about this as be our host building, right? We're looking to attract about $12 million in outside capital to help the companies that come in, because we think we can. WHIN would be one of the sources, there's retired West Point graduates will be another, there are others who are contacting us. We want it to be a hangout for the cadets, so we want them to come down the hill and, you know, be engineers, right? Understand the private sector a little bit, spend some money while you're down there, and the companies will come because we have that talent pool there. And, you know, obviously, this will be our biggest, none of our other accelerators have a lot of STEM in it. The CBD one, we've already hired chemists for example, for the testing laboratory, and we are trying to get those kind of jobs. This will absolutely require that kind of higher level skills in a STEM career. Also, AI, artificial intelligence, has a lot of ethical dilemmas that have to be solved, because when people have your data, they can do stuff with it. And West Point wants to be one of those places that has the best thinkers in their faculty on AI ethics. So we'll use that as a center to drive that kind of stuff out, run conferences there, et cetera. And, okay, I think I'm gonna leave it there. So let me, go ahead. Oh, yeah, very last page, thank you. You want me to do that? 2020 goals. Okay, so, as you know, we've been working with McAllister and Quinn in Washington, D.C. to help us connect to the Pentagon, to other sources of funding to help us grow this, and that's a lot of connections we have. The AI one especially is going to be the one that's closest for us to the federal government. We're going to need that for West Point, et cetera. But we're also applying, and John, this is what I was talking about, economic adjustment, I always forget the other agency grant for $1 million. That would enable us to take, again, old buildings, retrofit them, and convert them back into usable spaces. It's an EAA grant. We've been working on that grant for about 3 months now. It has to be in June. We can get up to $5 million. We're going to shoot for $5 million, but we're hoping to get $1 million, which then we hope to leverage. So if we can get $1 million from the federal government, usually we go to New York State, so we just got $1 million, just like you guys do on the trail, 4 to 1, 2 to 1, that kind of thing. We're hoping to leverage that money. We're going to offer some new services for accelerator companies, mostly in marketing and branding. You know, again, we're looking for industry partners to help us. Woodbury Common recently hired Fred Marino, who was a Macy's marketing executive. You know Fred? You introduced us. Yeah. So Fred's been over a number of times. He's met with these companies. He's brilliant in how you can create that brand. And at no charge, he's been helping us along.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we get in, so every time you guys call us, if you think we ignore you, we do not. We follow up with it. We want to put accelerators in more towns and villages. The one we think we really need to put one probably is in Port Jervis at some point, but we got to get through this one in Highland Falls first. And we want to promote entrepreneurial, we have to be able to say it like that.
Entrepreneurialism.
Because Orange County is not known as a place for entrepreneurs. Which is funny, because you, your dad, you are entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
Your
we have a lot of
son,
entrepreneurs.
you are. We got a lot of entrepreneurs, but we're not known for that here, right? Now we're known for tourism or distribution warehouses. We'll bring more money here and more investment if we could start to get out there and be known as a place that people want to innovate and become entrepreneurs. So we've got to work on that. So that's our next steps. Questions?
That was quite the report.
That is the 2019 report.
We're all exhausted.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you to Lori. You've been a great partner in this, and the team, and everybody on the team has got their piece of this.
Well, it's really phenomenal, the success that you guys have created in the last couple of years. I mean, it's really great, and it puts the money that we have to work. So, that's all good stuff. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Good job.
Yeah, thank you very much. Where are we? Okay, yeah, we don't need an executive session. Okay, so we're up to applications and resolutions. We have Gan Scammer Energy.
Yes, so it's just the final resolution. We have Michelle Hook here from Dan Scammer, but they came and made a full report last month. Just as a reminder, this is for an extension of the pilot, not for anything new. This is just a 4-year extension of the existing pilot. And as a reminder, both the town of Newburgh, excuse me, both the town of Newburgh and the school district fully support the extension of this pilot. They have community benefit agreements that are contingent upon the approval of this extension. This extension also allows us to clean up some of the language that is confusing to the payment system. So if you'll remember, there was this $900,000 overpayment that Dan Scammer found, and it was due to the special district charge cap. If this extension is approved, Dan Scammer will be no longer seeking repayment for that $900,000 overpayment, and will instead just move forward, and we'll clean up the language in the pilot so that that is no longer a confusing billing matter. And also, for everyone here, the public hearing transcript is available for everyone. It was a very short public hearing. Only a few people spoke, and everyone spoke in support, including the town of Newburgh Supervisor, Mr. Claudio, and Michael Brooks from the town of Marlborough, or for the Marlborough Central School District. So it was support at the public hearing, and so today before you, you would have the approval of the final resolution, which Kevin has.
Final resolution, Dan Scammer Energy LLC project. Resolution authorizing the Orange County Industrial Development Agency to, 1, retain a leasehold interest in an aggregate of approximately 52 plus or minus acre parcel of land located at West Hudson River Road and Old Post Road, each in the town of Newburgh, Orange County, New York. 2, negotiate and execute a project agreement or amendment of existing project agreement, lease agreement or amendment of existing lease agreement, leaseback agreement or amendment of existing leaseback agreement, related tax agreement or amendment of existing tax agreement. 3, extend the term of the existing tax agreement to December 31st, 2025, and execute related documents.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Diana is absent, Mr. DeSalvo is absent, Mr. Brescia,
Yes.
Mr. Gatos,
Yes.
Mr. McCary,
Yes.
Mr. Schreiber,
Yes.
and Madam Chairwoman.
Yes.
5 ayes, Madam Chairwoman, resolution's adopted.
Okay, thank you. Are you good to go?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming. The next application is for Lynch, I don't know how to say
Lunchies.
this. Lunchies, thank you.
So,
Lunchies and music.
I briefly mentioned this last month in my report, but Lenchies has, longstanding pilot agreements, sales tax agreements, with the Orange County IDA. They are refinancing, they are not taking the mortgage reporting tax, but we do have to subordinate. What is it, Russ, are we subordinating? or-
No, I spoke with the final clerk of the council yesterday. They just want the IDA to be a co-mortgagor because we have a leasehold interest in the property on a non-recourse basis. They're gonna pay the tax, it's just because we have an existing lease. It's a ministerial act, but Lori and I spoke about it, thought it'd be best to bring it to the board.
So we're mortgagee but not obligor?
Correct.
Okay.
So this will just be for our records, and then the bank who is, where the bank is,
Refinancing?
yes, would like a copy of the language as well, just so that they have it for their records that we agree to it, so.
Okay.
No benefits are being extended.
Right.
Okay.
Kevin has a resolution.
Resolution, Lunchies Amusement Corporation Deviated Castle Project. Resolution authorizing the Orange County Industrial Development Agency to execute on a non-recourse basis a certain mortgage in an amount not to exceed $1.5 million in connection with a certain project undertaken by the company as agent of the agency located at 109-115 Brookside Avenue in the village and town of Chester, Orange County, New York, subject to certain conditions.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, second.
Mr. Diana is absent, Mr. DeSalvo is absent, Mr. Brescia,
Yes.
Mr. Gatos.
Yes.
Mr. McCary.
Yes.
Mr. Schreiber.
Yes.
Madam Chairwoman.
Yes.
5 ayes, Madam Chairwoman, resolution adopted.
Okay, thank you. So next up on the agenda is the attorney-client session, which we do need to go into, but before we do that, and I meant to do this initially, is I just wanted to, even though John's not here, extend my personal thanks to John Steinberg for his longstanding service to this board. He was on 30 years or more, right?
Since 1989.
And most recently served on the Accelerator Committee, which he, very active member, also got involved in, some of the challenges with the Warwick site as far as the construction was concerned, which was invaluable, and on the audit committee, and even though there were times where I really wanted to hurt him, his input was also very valuable, so I just like the public to say that in public, thank John. And he was a great board member.
Yeah.
I like for that too.
Okay.
You guys can recognize him in the
Short time I
legislature.
know, I'm losing her time.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna give
World
a
knowledge,
presentation.
world
Yes, very much so. absolutely.
He's away right now. That's
Yeah.
why he can be here.
Yeah.
Did you say something,
So
Mr.?
we're gonna do
We got some
recognition
knowledge
of
here now.
legislature too.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
John's a good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, so we'll go into the attorney-client
And we will
session.
actually.
We're gonna physically move.
Yes.
Is he one of the original lovers on idea?
Probably.
Yeah.
You know, it started in 1976 and he was appointed in 89, so.
He may be his former chairman, I know that.
He was,
Yeah.
Close enough, no
Or,
support.
To go into attorney-client? So I'll get a motion in a second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
you guys can stay put or leave.
There you go.
Come on, John.
Right.
See you later. Okay, where are we?
We are.
And other board
We're missing
business.
two.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna do these two.
You guys have any other board business? No. Anyone else have any other board business?
Form.
Oh, I would have to wait. I'm sorry.
Listen, two.
Details. Please don't give me a slice of pizza.
Make sure they know.
Pass them.
Oh, I like that.
They were trying to leave.
Motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to adjourn. Take a second, thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, so next we have to, on my agenda, hold on, for the OCFC. Okay, so I'm gonna, call the, meeting to order. The Orange County Funding Corp. Let's start with the roll call. Mr. Diane is absent, Mr. DeSalvo is absent, Mr. Brescia,
Here.
Mr. Gatos,
Here.
Mr. Scrabble,
Here.
Mr. McCary, Rubelski's here, Lori, Jimmy, Melanie, Kevin, Russ, and Joel are all here. Next up on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the January 9th, 2020 meeting,
So
which
moved.
is in your packet. Thank you, thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
I see.
Okay. Financial reports and requests for payments, Joel?
If you refer to page 5 in your package, we have the Orange County Funding Corporation bank account and cash balance as of January 31st, 2020, $1,930,746. Page 6 is a income and expense summary as of January 31st. We have total income of $541 and expenses of $17,245. Page 7 are vouchers to be approved totaling $77,028.30.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the financials.
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, other board business?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you.